Thank you for joining us today. Our guest is Svetlana Ilnitskaya, Director of Global Solution Strategy and Sales Support at Corsearch. In this episode, Svetlana and I are going to discuss blockchain domains, NFT marketplaces, and the monitoring and takedown services offered by Corsearch. How big is the Web3 project? And a discussion on AI usage in Web3 and how this will impact the future of this sector. Without further ado, let's begin. Hi, Svetlana. Let's have a look at blockchain domains from the Corsearch's perspective. What do you guys see as blockchain domains? Use cases, how they're different from traditional domain, and how have you seen a lot of infringement?
Sure. Should we start with the simplified definition of what blockchain domains are for our listeners? It's always a fun
Sounds
one,
good.
always a fun one to try to describe. But blockchain domains are domain names that are registered, managed, and operate on decentralized network or a blockchain. So they essentially live on the same technology as cryptocurrencies and NFTs. And right now, I think it's fair to say that blockchain domains are used mostly by cryptocurrency users or crypto savvy users, but they have been growing in popularity. And I think one of the recent stats that I saw by Ethereum name service, they reported that over 2.2 million .eth domains have been registered in 2022. That's a large amount, and that's just .eth, right? So there are
Yeah.
various extensions that blockchain domains can have. It's .crypto, dot I don't remember now what they are. They all relate to sort of this crypto space. Um, and also, what are the uses of blockchain domains today, right? So I think they can be used. There's a number of ways you can use a blockchain domain. They can be used to create a digital identity. They can be used to build decentralized apps on top of it. But I think the two primary uses of blockchain domains that are gaining our focus is, well, they can be used pretty much as a human readable name for a crypto wallet. In a very similar way as a traditional domain, you would also know how to find a domain by its name, right, rather than the IP address where it's hosted. So in a similar way, blockchain domain is used so you can find or identify a crypto wallet in an simplified way. And another way you can use a blockchain domain is to build a decentralized website. Um, and the content of these websites, they live on the decentralized systems such as IPFS rather than centrally located server, as in the case of a traditional domains. Um, so I would say there are, and if we talk about, okay, what's the really difference and the benefits between the blockchain domain versus a traditional domain, I think the notable advantages, or I guess it can be viewed as an advantages, but then it poses problems for us, of a blockchain domain is first the ownership and the decentralization of them, right? So what it means is once you own the blockchain domains, the user or the owner of the domain really controls what happens with that domain. They are the owners. They don't rely on the third party intermediaries to manage or transfer ownership of that domain, um, which in traditional domains, you do involve number of intermediaries that regulate
Mhm.
the space, and
Yeah.
this doesn't happen. with the blockchain domains.
Yeah.
Um,
I think the one that's the one that's got the most coverage at the moment is the wallet identifier. That's where .eth is the forefront, or the leader in that particular sector, because they came up with the idea originally. You got unstoppable domains where you can get 10 extensions. They vary from .crypto, NFT, X, blockchain, Bitcoin, etc. But .eth is the one that originally came up with the concept. Let's find a way to make that nonsensical address more easy for people to understand and utilize. And that's where they created the ability to register a name so it can be used as a wallet name, which is quite cool.
it is
From an
cool.
infringement perspective, yeah. Oh, sorry.
But
Yeah, go
yeah,
for it.
no, exactly. It is cool, but we wouldn't be having this podcast, right, if it wasn't being exploited by some of the bad actors.
Correct. Yes, 100% correct. Yeah. So from an infringement side, what do you guys see? Quite common, or is there a common thread or trend, or what do you actually see from the infringement perspective?
Yes, absolutely. So the blockchain domains is not a very new concept, but it really came under our radar when we've developed the solution for NFT marketplace monitoring. So when we've started looking at NFT marketplaces, um, we've noticed that these blockchain domains, because they represent the digital assets, they can be um, bought and sold and traded. So we saw a large number of these domains being offered on NFT marketplaces, and we've observed the sale of NFT domains that feature IP owners' trademarks without their authorization. And of course, this is problematic. Earlier, we've discussed, the NFT domains can be used to create digital identities. They link to crypto wallets. They can be used to create websites and so on. So they are the infringing domains pose really high risk of potential scams. These bad actors, they use them to impersonate brands, businesses for scam and phishing purposes, and it's particularly problematic, I'd say, for financial businesses. Even though we have seen pretty much every industry that we work with being affected by this. And they are closely associated with these crypto scams. And I believe the damage from crypto scams in 2022 was over 3 billion US dollars.
Yeah.
It's quite a problematic activity.
You did mention something which is very interesting, which is the NFT marketplaces and Corsearch's monitoring enforcement solution. Do you want to give us a little bit of a rundown or breakdown of what that service is, and how it actually works?
Yes, of course. So we have developed a solution that specifically addresses IP challenges that brands and IP owners face on NFT marketplaces. So this means that IP owners can detect, analyze, enforce, and report instances of IP infringement using our platform. Currently, we cover five major NFT marketplaces. I'd say that the most problematic being OpenSea, followed by Rarible and Mintable. And we also work on relationships with NFT marketplaces and other Web3 platforms and service providers such as Unstoppable Domains on reactive as well as proactive solutions for IP infringement.
And how are you finding explaining to clients in particular, because this is something that we get asked a lot, is that there is no the only way that you can move the name from one party to another party, if you're successful in getting that name, is by that other party agreeing to transfer the name to you, or the name is burnt. So it's put into that wallet. That means that nobody can ever utilize that particular NFT or blockchain domain, which is an NFT at the end of the day. How are you finding clients taking that particular bit of bad news, I guess, if you want to call it that?
Yes, that's a very good point that you're raising, because I think it's important to note that the decision to remove an NFT from an NFT marketplace does not actually remove an NFT from the blockchain, right? Or an NFT or a blockchain domain from the blockchain itself or any other platform where it may appear, and the deleting that NFT or blockchain domain from the blockchain can only be done by a party possessing the NFT in their wallet. Um, so I think there's two things here. it- w- First, when we enforce on NFTs from the NFT marketplaces, that does an important thing of removing that asset from the visibility of consumers and eliminating that risk of someone purchasing it. Maybe mistakenly or otherwise. So I think it's very important to, because the NFT marketplaces are still viewed as the most consumer facing platforms out there. So once you eliminate that visibility, what you can do with that NFT or blockchain domain becomes quite limited. Of course, if you do want to go through that process of destroying it or maybe acquiring it. That's a decision that needs to be made by the brand, whether it's they invest, because it tends to be there's a certain investment that goes with it, and it's really up to them. How they would want to proceed, but and we do see some brands going through that length of acquiring it. But usually, 90% of the issues can be resolved by just removing limited access to the visibility of that asset.
And you mentioned the marketplaces. Now, OpenSea, I like to refer to them as the eBay of the Web3 world, because they are the biggest by far of the marketplaces out there, and they have a pretty robust process that's available for brand owners to get a name or NFT or blockchain domain removed from a listing. Um, how are you finding the other ones like Rarible, Mintable, and those other uh, marketplaces that you deal with? Are you finding them quite challenging to get NFTs and blockchain domains, taken off of a listing?
So I think we have close to 100% of success rate of takedowns on those five NFT marketplaces that I've mentioned. A very small percentage of NFTs reported have not been removed, or we had a pushback on due to the issues raised around fair or artistic use. So just to give you an overview of the enforcement process. When IP infringement is detected, it's commonly reported to the NFT platform through some sort of established IP reporting channels. And all of those platforms that I've mentioned, they have some sort of channels for you to be able to submit that infringement report. We 86% of all of notices that we submit are based on trademark infringement. And they are the trademarks we tend to use are based in classes 9 and 35. Um, and the rest sometimes use other well-known trademarks registered in other classes, and sometimes we also find that being successful. So I think overall compliance is good. I think, but the challenge that we have is just overwhelming number of infringements found. So I think we have another customer, um, for that customer in footwear and apparel. I think our enforcement figures are about 100,000 of infringing NFTs reported per month. They just give you the sense of the scale of the problem. So I think the next step is not only having a channel to report it to the platform, but rather having some proactive steps taken by the platform to prevent these from being listed in the first place. We have had some discussions with OpenSea. So OpenSea want to adopt an image matching algorithms that would allow to prevent certain NFTs, certain images that are registered with them from being listed. So that's one of the examples. One of the example of these proactive solutions. I know that unstoppable domains also for a certain time also allows trademark owners to block certain trademarks from being registered within the space. And I think that's what we want to see. We want to see more of that. But of course, these platforms are, quite young. You're talking about just a few years, and it's just recently that they started to understand the impact of this IP infringements that than they have, and I don't think they quite considered it when they were launching it. So we have to also be patient with them while they learn, but that's why it's very important to actually be in active conversations with them, because not only the brands should be educating these platforms about the issues that they're facing, but also providers like us who already done this on on social media platforms, on marketplaces. We can sort of share with them some of the best practices as well.
Yeah, that's actually that's a good point, that sharing best practices with the five at the moment. It might What might also be easier, or more effective, is to have a centralized database. I'm not suggesting we have a TMCH or any of that type of thing from the Web2 environment, but some kind of centralized database where they can plug into that to get information from, and then that way make it easier for them to block terms from being registered, being shown on their particular platforms. That might be one way to go in the future. But that is a long time away. I don't think that's going to be a solution that's going to happen suddenly.
But it's a yes, the solution to decentralization is decentralization.
That's actually 100% correct. Which kind of defeats the object of what Web3 was set up to be, which is decentralized. But sometimes, if you want brands to play in your environment, you need to be able to protect brands. Otherwise, brands aren't going to play in your environment, because at the end of the day, they don't want to have, you know, they've worked very hard to create that brand image, and they don't want that brand image to be, smeared by some individual who thinks they can make a quick buck. Um, so it might end up being a little bit of a decentralized, centralized type of environment, but we'll have to wait and see. I mean, time will tell, really. Um, I guess the next thing is, how how big is the Web3 project for Corsearch? I mean, is this something that you see that is starting to grow as people become more aware of it, and it's becoming bigger, or is it just really in its infancy stage at this present moment in time?
So I think the biggest area of investment for us within the Web3 has been NFT marketplaces. And we have seen the IP infringement associated with NFTs lead to things like brand delusion, revenue loss, consumer trust issues. They also majorly undermine business strategy, and IP value of the brands, and especially the ones that are also looking into entering the space. I've also, mentioned that the level of IP infringement we have observed on NFT marketplaces is often much higher than we see on other more traditional digital channels like marketplaces, for example. So it has been an important area for us to monitor, and also because of the NFTs, just it just gain a popularity with everyone, right? So it's one of those areas that maybe not everyone fully understands it, but it's quite a visible to consumer areas. It's important to protect. Um, and we do see a lot of brands now do monitor and want to, and we have a lot of customers that are in the space and have their own NFTs, which is great because entering the space early and establishing a presence within the Web3 allows the consumer also to differentiate between something that's authentic versus not, so which is a great thing. And another area that we're looking at within the sort of Web3 umbrella is metaverse-like platforms. So when we talk about metaverse, and I'm sure you've already had some discussions about the metaverse, it's such a big topic on its own. But really, it's a broad application of various technologies of uh, that represent really evolvement of what internet is, and they are rooted in things like blockchain, but also VR and AR, um, and so one, there's one that I liked to mention, which is Roblox. And Roblox is a metaverse like platform. It's not strictly Web3 or decentralized, but it does have a similar digital economy within the platform where you have your digital experiences. But the big economy on Roblox is actually selling digital assets and trading digital assets for avatars. And I think Roblox reported over 1 billion in game spending, and a lot of it is, purchasing outfits for your avatars and accessories for your avatars. And we also do see brands entering the space, as well as just, other more opportunistic developers trying to exploit brands to monetize on this activity. So I think that's another area that's on our mind, within the Web3 umbrella, is to how do you address these metaverse-like platforms. Um, and the advice that I always like to give to the brands when we talk about the Web3 is first to, consider putting together your internal Web3 focused task force responsible for keeping up with this fast moving Web3 technologies, and includes your legal and brand protection teams, if you can. Like we have within the Corsearch a Web3 task force, which I'm a part of. Um, Second, consider your own Web3 strategy, right? So we've mentioned, establishing your own presence allows you to gain this genuine brand recognition among the Web3 users, which your brand can benefit from. I think another important area is make sure you audit your IP portfolio, to see if you have any gaps in your of your brand in the digital space, right? So classes 9, 35, 41. I've mentioned that we rely on those to actually successfully enforce on. And every now and then a platform would accept another well-known trademark, but uh, as the space develops and becomes more established, I think the use of those is going to become more stricter. So that's very important to get your to do your IP audit. Um, we've also talked about the relationships with these platforms, with Web3 platforms that are important so you can educate them and you can benefit from some of the proactive tools that they're offering. Um, and of course, yes, like team up with forward thinking partners, like Com Laude. I know you guys do a lot of good stuff within the blockchain domain space and the Web3. Um, you know, because it's definitely very important area to look after.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's a growing area, and it's in its infancy stages, but it's going to grow quite substantially over the next few years. And thing to remember is that a lot of the times I think the older generation, I'm one of those, uh, as you can tell by you can't see the screen, but I've got a grey beard. Um, the older generation tend to be less feel less secure in going into Web3 environments, whereas the younger generation, because of Roblox, Minecraft, and all that kind of thing, they're kind of used to that whole concept of that community style of gathering together, so metaverses like Decentraland and the Sandbox and Somnium. That's why they're growing, because people are getting older, the ones that were the younger ones, and now they've got disposable income, so it's a good place for them to go and play. Um,
Absolutely. Like you've mentioned, younger generation. So if Roblox alone has over 40 million visitors every day, and I think like close to 90% of those are under 16 years old. And so like within Gen Z, like this, and Roblox is more about your digital identities that are important. And with another, the Web3, when we looked, I think at the who were the primarily target demographic for NFTs, those are millennials. So also very important group.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, and there's one thing, we've we haven't spoken about this on the call yet, but we had when we were talking before. But AI, how is Corsearch seeing AI being used, or how do you see yourselves using AI within the enforcement aspect of the Web3 environment?
Yes, so AI has been also such a popular topic lately, right? And I think it's just such an exciting technology in so many ways. So naturally, our product team, and here I have to give a shout out to Helen Saunders, who's our absolute star product leader. They have been looking at AI and machine learning for a while, and considering how we can implement it within our systems and technologies to make um, to first to make the detection and enforcement more efficient, right? So how can we benefit from these technologies? How our customers can benefit from these technologies? So I think one important area our product team is looking at is obviously natural language processing. So looking when we detect something, the really style of writing and understanding, can we, by looking at the style of writing, understand what things are likely to be linked. So with that, we use that within the network analysis. So I should probably explain what a network analysis is when we collect the data and from the internet. Network analysis allows us to visualize how networks operate together. So rather than you looking at isolated instances of, let's say, then an open sea, right, listing your collection, it looks more wider. It's like, what else does that link to, right? What other platforms these users are advertising on? Where else do they appear? So that's where network analysis comes together. And it looks at hard pieces of data, such as maybe contact details, maybe like, I don't know, wallet addresses if we're talking about the Web3. But where AI comes in is also looking at other uh, style of writing, let's say, that maybe they use, and saying these are also likely to be connected because they're so similar. So that's one use. And another use, we also use quite a lot of AI algorithms in our images and image interpretation. Finding similar images. So here we're not talking about the exact image matching, or maybe just abstracted images that are the same. They are looking for similar images, and if they display similar products, right? So it or one very cool thing that they've started looking at is actually understanding the image's background. So they've noticed that in brand protection and counterfeiting, you would have these catalogs of images that are all being shot at the same location. So the AI algorithms can actually understand that background and say these are all likely linked because they all share the same background of the location, which is really really cool. So it's all allows us for sort of to enhance our enforcement and prioritization.
That definitely sounds exciting. I will be honest with you. I mean, yeah, Web3 is an exciting thing, but AI is now becoming the next flavor of the year. So it'll be interesting to see how AI is implemented by organizations, etc. So it's going to be a very interesting time for us all going forward.
Yes, and it's I love to. There's lots of AI tools available there right now already. And as there's been some articles recently that they say, oh, AI is not going to take your job. Is those people who use AI and those organizations who adopt AI? They're the ones that going to succeed in this environment.
Absolutely, absolutely. Svetlana, thank you very much for your time today. It was great to talk to you and get a good understanding of where Corsearch fits within the Web3 ecosphere.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you have any additional questions or would like to have a chat with us, please send an email to web3@comlaude.com and we will get back in touch with you. If you want to hear more interesting discussions on Web3, follow our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube.